There you go.
And you can
Okay.
put it on YouTube or something.
Okay. Well, so I think this is gonna. I'll figure out a way to put a recording of it on here. I don't. My husband figured out some. He's good with computers, so hopefully I'll be able to post this after, even though it won't be like a direct link from Teams. It should. It may take me a while, or I may have to use YouTube or something to upload it to. But I'll have a link to it at least. We tested it and make sure. Um, do y'all have any questions about? I know I talked about the research paper some, and
Not necessarily. No.
yeah, so we'll spend like Friday that we're gonna go over the Sunjata, but we'll talk about the research paper some more then, since I know I'm sorry that this took so much time, but we'll go over the research paper some more Friday, and then we'll go over the Sunjata. But I'm just gonna do an overview of Milton. Um, so Milton, he wrote Paradise Lost. That is one of the most prolific poems. That one of the main schools of thought that it does emphasize is humanism in the text. I know in the quiz I posted a question that there are scholars that talk about obviously how he was promoting humanism and how it does that, which he is doing that. But you could still look at it from a different lens and kind of see, if you looked at it from a different perspective, how he's sort of showing that humanism ties into essentially the original sin in this, because Adam and Eve elevated themselves above the divine, and that is what caused their downfall. But essentially, that humanism is shown through the way the adversary is written. So he makes him very much like a human in the way he's described. It's very, very relatable. Um, this text that it was seen as sort of controversial for the time, just based on the fact that it was not just about religion, though the text is a re-envisioning of the book of Genesis, that it really was motivated by his political feelings at the time. So Milton, that he did have also some different religious views, and he was showing these in the text as well. And it's kind of, yes, you could take different perspectives of this text from a religious standpoint. Politically, though, the text talks about how that Milton was a passionate advocate of political liberty during the heady years of the English Civil War, and then he's best known to us for his epic retelling of Adam and Eve's fall from paradise. And so basically, though, that we see that and you'll see in literature too, reading about the text, that he did have different theological views. Um, so essentially, that he did argue with Calvinistic views on predestination. So some of his views on that, like, he disagreed with, and that was one of the main points that he did not necessarily agree with. And there's even some scholars that, after doing some digging, and I do always bring this up just because it's just a different view. There's some that do say that he had Unitarian views, which of religion. So that is, they did not. They basically did not. They had different views of the triune God, essentially, and so the text does mention Jesus Christ in it and the beginning of it and whatnot, but just the way that it's set up. And there's a lot of students that, well, there's at least a few that I've read their interpretation of the Unitarianism in it, and it is really interesting to see different viewpoints of it, based on how he portrays the adversary. Basically, that some would argue how he makes the adversary so much greater in a sense, and gives him more of a voice, that downplays the power of the triune God, essentially. But then if you look at it from other perspectives, that essentially that he was basically trying to point out flaws in the monarchy. So essentially, that some scholars point to the fact that the adversary was likened to um, Charles II. He did not like some of the political rulers of the day. He also believed he wrote this because he believed that after his banishment from public life and restoration, England had fallen on evil days. So there was a legitimate issue that he had with society that was, a genuine problem, and he was trying to address it and come up with a creative way to say, there's been a lot of political corruption. He was actually, banished for his political views, and so obviously that, he would have felt like his voice was being silenced, which is, that he should have right to free speech as well. So Milton was imprisoned and fined for his service to the Commonwealth. And of course, we know during this time that even in England, eventually they even threw people in jail for not attending church and things like that. Which, that of course it's understandable they wanted people to go to church, but there were some things that they did that were a little bit excessive at times. And so he was basically writing about the oppression of the monarchy. And, eventually, his ideas, the fact that allusion to the adversary as the royalty at the time, eventually that democracy became one of the main political philosophies later on, that we know that we don't have a monarchy in America. Many countries still do, but that idea was put out there that this is not really a good idea to just have one person in command. And of course that the king, the divine right of kings is something that is noted, that so they believe that God put them there, and some of them use that for their own corruption in terms of the fact they believe they could get away with anything. Even with, like Henry VIII is a really good example that, he tried to use that, and then he also tried to manipulate the church and also get away with basically disobeying their rules on marriage and other stuff like that. That basically is a really good example of why, Milton, really probably felt like that, because later on it got even worse. Essentially, that we see how eventually that democracy became so popularized because of corrupt rulers. And essentially that it does talk about Charles I and Charles II a lot in the introduction here. There was tension between King Charles and Parliament, and then and said also, and this is page 785, after Cromwell's death in 1658, the English soon became disillusioned with the Puritan regime, and in 1660, Charles II returned from his exile in the Spanish Netherlands for a peaceful restoration of the Stuart dynasty. Milton was imprisoned and fined for his service to the Commonwealth. So once again, that his dislike of the monarchy, caused him to this, but to write this. So it was politically motivated, but also, like I said, there is another side to it, and that is you have to really dig to find that other side. Because if you read this text, well, you would think this is a really a vivid and reinterpretation of the biblical text, that it does help the common person be able to actually understand the book of Genesis better, because he does a really good job of making the whole situation more relatable in a sense. There's a lot of vivid details and the emphasis on poetics in this, and attention to also there is references to Greek mythology and other things in it, though this is Paradise Lost. So he does a lot. He goes really in depth in making a lot of allusions and personification and whatnot, and by humanizing the adversary, that he arguably is making the whole text easier to understand for like someone. If they just picked up the book of Genesis and they just read it, it would just be pretty simple, that Adam and Eve, they disobeyed the creator, and then they're therefore banished from the garden. This gets into the psychology of why, but like I said, it just really kind of like it when you read it, like at first, just the first time you're reading it, or at least the way when I read it, some of the different interpretations wouldn't come to mind. I would just say, well, this really looks plausible, and the psychology behind it seems pretty valid. That's probably pretty close to accurate. What caused the fall? It actually goes into the fall of the adversary, and then we have the fall of humanity, and the reasons for that, and the psychology behind the adversary too. I mean, that's very true in terms of the fact he's portrayed as a creature that believes that there's literally no point in doing good or following God because everything is essentially evil. So because there's no point in it and everything is just doomed, and that's really his philosophy. And that's the points that he makes are, would seem like that would be pretty valid, a valid portrayal of the 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 being that became the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the way that he tricked Eve as well. That he did not, even though he knew that she knew not to partake of that fruit, he kept trying to. Basically, he wore her down to the point where he had her believing that death was actually, oh, it would be worth dying to eat that fruit. So, even though she knew all the answers, and a lot of times she actually does answer him back in the correct way in terms of being able to explain that, well, that God told us we cannot eat from this fruit, and explain that to him. Like he does, he's just very persistent, and his persistence and her naivety end up leading her to partake of the fruit. There's some aspects of theology that really do focus on the fact, it was Eve that did it first, so she is the one to blame. There's some theological commentaries on that out there as well. Essentially, though, they both ate the fruit, and though she was the one that brought it to Adam, that he tried to entice Eve because of the appeal of the fruit, what it looked like, and obviously the aesthetics of that. He believe that that would have been more simpler to do being a woman. So once again, looking at gender as well, that we definitely see that being shown as a weakness, just because Eve was a woman, that she would be more enticed by it because the fruit looked good. And once again, that we do see, but like I said, we see a lot of common themes that are shown in that text, and it does explain it a lot better, the psychology behind it, the fact that the adversary, he believes that basically that one of the quotes he says that he makes a heaven of a hell, a hell of a heaven. And also this is in book 1. He says this is it basically goes on and on about the reason why that it's futile to do good and serve God. This is around line 144 on 792. A force believe Almighty, since no less than such could have overpowered such force as ours, have left us this our spirit and strength entire, strongly to suffer and support our pains, that we may so suffice his vengeful ire, or do him mightier service as his thralls by right of war, whate'er his business be, here in the heart of hell to work in fire, or do his errands in the gloomy deep. So the gloomy deep. So he tries to really play on emotions and try to make everything seem so miserable that there's no point in goodness because everything is just doomed. What can it then avail, though we feel strength undiminished or eternal being, to undergo eternal punishment? So basically, that he just really, he goes on, and that's how he has the other angel, the fallen angels, they follow him because they end up believing that that's really true. There's really no point in this, and that anybody that obeys the Creator, that they're still enslaved to him, and that's miserable being enslaved. So why can't they be free? And so they follow him, and then it does talk a lot also about, and this is book 2, the Devil's Consult, and this is when we see him on a throne. It says, high on a throne of a royal state, which far outshone the wealth of Ormus and End. So like I said, there's a lot of research, not of just mythology and things like that in here, but also other places on the earth. The Ormus is an island in the Persian Gulf. Modern Hormuz, famous for pearls. So like I said, there's so much research and so much knowledge that he put into this poem of different cultures and values, but still tying it all into the text itself. And we do see, parallelism, outshone the wealth of Ormus and End, or where the gorgeous East, so that the repetition of the O. There, and then another parallelism is showers and Satan. That we see you also we see some, obviously hyperbolic language, barbaric, pearl, and gold. So obviously that at times we do see some exaggerations. And it continues with thus high, uplifted, beyond hope. That's also hyperbolic. So we see, personification, hyperbole, parallelism. There's a lot of alliteration too that helps you find the important words. But essentially, like I said, the text really does. It does a good job of focusing on the psychology behind the adversary, and why he did what he did, and like I said, that Eve and Adam and Eve, they knew what God had told them. In the PowerPoint, I added some research also on the tree of knowledge, and basically that there's some sort of philosophy that indicated that that another way that he tried to convince them, and inadvertently, was by the belief that even the creator was somehow submissive to that tree as well. So there's a lot of twisted knowledge in it that is obviously not accurate, that the adversary believes that it would not be accurate biblically, that would probably align with the adversary's mentality, things that you may not even think of that came out of this text. It's a good, like I said, it's a really good way to look at the psychology behind it, and the fact though that Adam and Eve, though they verbalized knowing what they're supposed to do, and then Eve, there were times in the text she did actually say, that she knew the right answer about not to eat from that fruit, and not to eat the fruit from that tree, that she still does it because basically that, like I said, he eventually wears her down, focusing on the aesthetics of it, focusing on making her believe that why wouldn't she deserve to be like a god herself, and partake of that fruit, and actually convinces her that even death is not so bad, just go ahead and eat the fruit, essentially. And that is what happens in the text. So there's a lot of truth behind this text if you compare it to like the similarity obviously to the original text, but there's still a lot of differences if you do really dig into it and just look at the fact, just his vantage point and the issue he had with predestination if you're comparing it to the biblical text, and obviously focusing more on the angle of the adversary minimizes the triune God, and it essentially is an argument that is made a lot. And I just I found it fascinating to look at the different views. And I know last semester there was a student that he did a really good job of like describing why that the adversary is actually a lot different than even the one in the actual original Bible. Even though, like I said, there's still a lot of similarities to it, it would be more based on the fact that that the power that this text focuses more on the power of the adversary than obviously the scriptures. But it does still mention the triune God at the beginning of this text. So it's not undermining that entirely because it's still mentioned, but because it is so heavenly focused on the psychology and humanizing the adversary that it can be seen in that way, and that makes a lot of people question. And one time I had a discussion with one of my classes, and one of my students said, well, basically she thought that Milton was just trying to um, basically kind of make people doubt what they already knew about the Bible, because it'd be so much different to read it from this vantage point. And if you make them question that, then they would start questioning the government and questioning everything. And basically that she likened him to the adversary himself. So I've heard a lot of different and interesting perspectives, but like I said, that you can still find a lot of research on how there are still a lot of similarities to the original text, and that's always interesting. So if you find something that is an adaptation of something, to go back to that text and look at the similarities and the differences. And we did that with Agamemnon as well. And do y'all have any insights, or what did y'all think of this text?
As far as the text, I'm actually still going through it. It's been a long week, so I haven't gone through it. But like the beginning of it, I don't know. It is interesting. I'm just trying to like throughout. I start reading it, and then I had to kind of rereading it again, because the way it's like laid out. So
Yeah, the
it's
way
taking
it's
me a
laid
minute.
out is, I know I did not require you to read all the books of this because it's a really long text. And like I said, I know that some of it he has so much research from other cultures even, or and so it has a lot of other. So you have to look at the footnotes. Job is mentioned, so we see Roman mythology, and like I said, there's a lot of different types of even different cultural references. Odysseus, even the fairy queen these are on the footnotes. So you do have to read the footnotes when you read this, because there's a lot of other things that are going into it besides just the text itself. And I know that does take, I mean, besides it being long, it takes even longer. And like I said, I always recommend doing outside research in the PowerPoint. The PowerPoints I tried to always, of course, I bring in my own commentary in there too, but I do a lot of research and try to make it a little bit easier for you to read the preliminary pages, read the PowerPoint, and then read the text. And it probably makes better sense to do that, just so you kind of know. And the text does a really good job by just reading those preface pages. A lot of times that will explain a lot of the context and everything as well. And obviously doing outside research is great. Bridget, do you have anything to add, or what did you think of the text?
I am also reading it again because, like him, I was like, wait, what? Say that one more time. So I'm reading back through it, but I do kind of see the whole, like, he's really pushing it like God is almost like a cult. Like, to me, it seems like he's really like trying to convince that following God is like a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, it is is definitely a pattern, a theme of the text, because it focuses so much on the adversary's vantage point. So like that is definitely, because that's what it begins like that. It begins with his fall, then it goes into how he tricked them, and it does. I mean, it does really push that perspective. I know in the quiz though, that I know one of the questions I made, if you still look at it from a different view, if you look at it from the fact that humanism is actually what caused the fall of Adam and Eve, that you would actually see that's kind of ironical, because the text is promoting humanism, but essentially humanism is connected to that original sin in the text. So that is a question on the quiz that, if you haven't already taken it, that like I know that everything you would read out there say, well, this is pushing humanism, but then you could still look at the fact that that the original sin essentially is humanism because it was elevating them above God, essentially, and that is what humanism is doing.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully that will. I'm gonna try to put in a help desk ticket, and um, I think I'm gonna have to ask Steven, my husband, though, to make sure that I like in the recording, and then it should, because it did come up, and then he was gonna help me find the capture because we did a test run of it, and sometimes I've been able to just have to upload to YouTube if it was something like that. So I may have to either upload it to YouTube or maybe it will upload without me having to do that. But YouTube, it just gives you a link and you watch it. Hopefully, though, that the help desk will answer tomorrow, and um, I'll either find out if there's something like I need to do an update with my teams or what it is, or maybe it's an outage. I mean, I know there's that hurricane coming, but um,
Yeah,
maybe it's
we're
just
out of I work at the school here at the elementary school, and they've called us out tomorrow.
yeah. Well, I hope that you all stay safe, and that's good that they told you not to come into work and to stay safe. Are you in near Georgia or Florida? Are you in Alabama?
Yeah, we're in Florida.
Okay. Oh wow. Or have you left like the state yet, or do you stay in there?
We'll stay here. My husband's Air Force, so they haven't released us. They tied the jets down, I guess, but that's about it.
Are you
So y'all
at? Where
just
you
have
at?
to.
We're over here at Eglin.
Ooh, we were there before. It was a nice base. I could have gone there, but they sent us the opposite way.
Oh no, you could have been our neighbor. We're up here in Crestview then, since you've been here before.
Gotcha. No, as far as like us over here, I don't know if your husband's the same thing. Same like with everything going on over the Middle East. It's even though weather here, it's been raining, but we're just busy with all the real world of stuff going on. So
Kevin, was
Yeah.
that pertaining to like? Sometimes I actually, I do watch the news and stuff, but was there something that happened in Israel and then with the pagers or something like that, and then people got
so
hurt?
there was an airstrike that they did, and it basically killed about 300. Well, I think the death toll went up. It was 350. I think it's like four something. Like I
That's
said, it's on the
terrible.
news. Yeah, and it's on the news. So I know this past weekend, and I think I told you guys last week, they were trying to get people in. We have what I call Bravos. They're basically just planes that are ready to go. Like the pilots are always ready in case they're like there's a moment's notice. They usually have us like we'll prep some of them, and then maybe one or two will went, but not this. All the Bravo planes we had, they wanted us to prep, all left. And then, like I said, next week we have this exercise coming up because we have deployers about to go out here soon. It's been a little bit hectic. And yesterday or Monday, like I said, I came in for a normal day, and with everything going on, our leadership was like, we're not going anywhere until these planes are green. Like, all planes always have some type of maintenance, but if there's anything that keeps them grounded, a lot of times they wait because we have other aircraft. Not this time. They were like, no, we need all these planes fixed. So we essentially worked almost a double, even with the other ships coming in. It was a little bit of a nightmare.
Well, I understand. That yeah, I'll be keeping you in my thoughts and prayers, and I really appreciate y'all's service as well. I noticed that a lot of the students at Troy that they are, Army or military or something that is serving the country a lot, and I really think that's awesome that y'all are able to do all that and still do college at the same time. That takes a lot of dedication to your studies.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I think starting next semester, I'm gonna switch to maybe one. I only have like 16 classes left, but I might switch to just one class a day, one class a term for a little bit because it's been a little crazy.
Yeah, I understand. I would, I didn't when because I well when I was in school that I just did the regular 18 weeks, and I did do summer terms and things. I did really enjoy that, but I was just thinking to myself, I don't know how, just having to do the 9 weeks myself, like how, because I was used to just like the 18 weeks, and I would do, 2 summer terms usually. Sometimes I did a Jan term, but I do know it's a really compacted. What we do is like what's supposed to be in 18 weeks and 9 weeks, and it's a lot. And you just have to, yeah, so you have to just try to spend enough time on it. But the good thing is, though, you don't have to spend a whole 18 weeks on it, though.
Yeah, it's still a pretty good of a blessing. So, but hopefully, and then Bridget, hopefully you guys are safe down there. I know usually when that stuff happens, they'll either because I used to live in Arkansas, so we did the same thing with weather issues, where like more of the planes down or send them to a new base.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing your husband works on fighters.
Yeah, he's a crew chief. Well, he used to be a crew chief. He's a little higher rank now, so he ain't out there on the line as much anymore.
That's good. Yeah, no.
But,
Uh, being maintenance, being a maintainer myself, I know that feeling.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah,
But
and
yeah, I live in Huntsville now, so I'm not as close to that. I'm originally from Birmingham, but so I'm not as close to it. But it's still supposed to. I know it's still supposed to rain a lot, and at least it's not like I live as close to it, at least. But I know that we're still supposed to get some rain. Um, but so far it hasn't been too bad. We maybe have a little rain, but because we're pretty far north compared to being you know, closer to, well, I'm not near Georgia or Florida, really.
I'm just glad to be out of Arkansas. I didn't care about hurricanes. It was the tornadoes I got tired of dodging.
see, I'm
Yeah.
from Kentucky. We get tornadoes like all the time. Yeah, tornadoes is not my friend.
By the second
Yeah.
year I was there, I gave up. I didn't even. I would go to bed, the alarms would be going off, and my wife be panicking. And, babe, go.
Yeah,
We get in the bath. I don't care. Let it take me. I'm too tired to deal with this anymore. And I just would lay down.
I
yeah,
know that it is really scary when the tornado warnings go off, and having I know that even after, I think, a little boy, it was like maybe 2 months. It was at one time, I think it was in January. I don't think my husband even remembers that he was born in November. But there was a tornado siren that went off, and we got in the bathroom and everything to hide and whatnot. But that it was just really scary because he was only whatever a month or two old. And January, it was really weird to have a tornado warning. And that
yes.
was in Huntsville. So
Like a year ago or maybe two now, Kentucky had a tornado that was really, really bad.
I remember that
Um,
one.
oh yeah, I
yeah,
do because I have
and it was like at
my
Christmas time.
yeah, my dad's family is from there, so my grandparents and everything. I
Yeah.
know that one year that was so bad that my grandparents are no longer living, but my cousin, I think he took a picture of their house, and like the tree, there's a tree that went all the way through the house. I think it might have been like 2022 maybe, or 2023, one of those years, that, and it was near the spring or summertime, that it I don't really remember exactly, but I remember looking at how bad the damage was.
Yeah. This past year, it took the roof off my mom's house, my stepmom's house.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it gets crazy there. But we had a tornado here a while back too, actually. I was like, I thought I moved away from there. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I used to live in Virginia, we had one hit us in Virginia. That was even
Oh,
crazy. I didn't even think that
that's
they would get up
crazy.
there.
'Cause they don't go that. They don't. I don't ever hear about them going that far over.
Yeah, it was crazy. And like our roommate, I remember I got home and he had just finished his
Yeah.
finals for college and he had like 27 hours straight. And the went outside and it like went crazy. And I ran in his room and I was like, Cody, get up, let's go. We gotta leave downstairs. And I gotta put pants on. And
No, you don't.
the
You don't
the
need the pants.
tornado had knocked down a tree next to the building. If it had went the opposite way, it would have landed on top of him.
Yeah, you don't need any pants on, dude. Just go. Just go. I mean, I think it's the only time you can get away with like running outside almost naked or naked. Yeah, you don't need any pants. Just run. Just hide.
Yeah.
Get down as low as possible.
Well, Bridget, I hope that you'll be safe and everything, and hope that that you stay safe. And Kevin, I'm glad that you're not in the middle of it, and hopefully it won't be. Like I said, I think where I'm at, cause I used to I'm from Birmingham, and there's a flood watch there, but um, I don't know about like the Troy. I kept looking to see if the Troy main campus, Troy at Troy, if that was going to be closed because that's near the tornado. I haven't seen anything yet in my email about it or the Montgomery campus. But I know that they're really good about like if it is the weather is bad that they usually for the in-person classes they usually close if it's dangerous. But hopefully I'll get this. I'm gonna put a ticket in for this, and hopefully I'll get it straightened out. And I think, like I said, I may end up having to upload this to YouTube or something, but I will post the link to it. And I hope that y'all have a great night. And Dana Moore and I will see y'all on Friday, and we'll go over the research paper in Sunjata.
Yes, ma'am.
Awesome.
Have a good night.
Okay, have
Bridget,
a
you
good
guys stay safe.
night.